Back here at home tonight, into the Alabama man free for the first time in 30 years. Wiping away tears, walking free after his conviction on capital murder charges was overturned.
A man walks out of Jefferson County Jail after 30 years behind bars. His name is Anthony Ray Hinton. He's 58 years old. He just spent 3 decades on death row, waiting to be executed for murders he didn't commit. As he stepped into the sunlight for the first time in 30 years, he said 5 words that became his message to the world. The sun does shine. This is his story. From a locked warehouse to a death row cell. From conviction based on lies to exoneration based on truth. This is how a broken justice system almost executed an innocent man. In 1985, Birmingham, Alabama was drowning in crime. Robberies were common. Murders happened regularly. July 2nd, 1985, a Domino's Pizza on Oxmoor Road, a robbery. The manager, John Davidson, was shot and killed. 3 days later, July 5th, a Piccadilly restaurant, another robbery. Another manager, Thomas Wayne Vason, also shot dead. Police believed it was the same killer, same gun, same pattern. Then they found a revolver, dusty, dirty, in the closet of Anthony Ray Hinton's mother. That gun became the entire case against Anthony. No eyewitnesses, no fingerprints, no physical evidence tying him to these murders. Just a gun found at his mother's home. But that was enough to charge him, enough to prosecute him, enough to sentence him to death.
Anthony Ray Hinton was 29 years old in 1985. He worked as a maintenance man in a locked warehouse, cleaning, repairing equipment. No criminal history, no arrests, no violence. On the days these murders happened, Anthony was at work in a locked warehouse, 15 miles away from where the shootings occurred. He had an alibi. He had a workplace that confirmed his presence. He had nothing connecting him to these crimes except a gun that belonged to his mother. But police had made a decision. Police had their suspect. And once they made that decision, they stopped looking elsewhere.
At trial, everything rested on ballistics evidence. The prosecution had one expert. This expert testified the bullets matched. He claimed the gun was the murder weapon. He said this with certainty. Anthony took a polygraph test. He passed. The test confirmed his story. He was telling the truth about his innocence. But the judge refused to allow the polygraph into evidence. The jury never heard about it. The jury never knew Anthony passed a test proving innocence. The jury was all white. Anthony was a black man accused of murdering 2 white people. In 1985 Birmingham, that created a presumption of guilt. They only heard the prosecution's expert, heard the claim that the gun matched, heard nothing contradicting it. 1 hour. That's how long they deliberated. Just 1 hour to decide if Anthony lived or died. The vote was 10-2. Not unanimous, but Alabama doesn't require unanimous verdicts for death sentences. 2 jurors thought he was innocent. That wasn't enough. Anthony Ray Hinton was sentenced to death for murders he didn't commit.
From 1986 to 2015, 30 years, Anthony Ray Hinton lived in a 5x8 cell. Every morning he woke up knowing he was innocent. Every night he fell asleep knowing the state wanted to execute him. This psychological torture lasted 3 decades. He lost his 30s in a cell, lost his 40s, lost his 50s. He said, "They stole my 30s, my 40s, my 50s. I could not afford to give them my soul."
They took my 30s, my 40, my 50, but what they couldn't take was my joy.
To survive mentally, he created fantasy worlds. He imagined having dinner with Queen Elizabeth, playing baseball for the Yankees, being married to famous actresses. These fantasies kept him sane. He started a book club with other death row inmates. They read and discussed books while waiting to die for crimes they may not have committed. One inmate became his closest friend, a former KKK member, a man who once hated people like Anthony because of his race. But in that cell, they found common humanity. They found hope when everything else was gone. His case reached the Supreme Court of the United States, the highest court in the land. Unanimously, they ruled his conviction needed review. But nothing changed. Prosecutors didn't investigate further. Police didn't admit error. The conviction stood. Anthony kept waiting.
In the early 2000s, the Equal Justice Initiative took Anthony's case.
This nonprofit dedicates itself to helping abandoned death row inmates. Their lead attorney was Bryan Stevenson, a lawyer who had dedicated his life to defending people the system forgot. Stevenson immediately saw what was obvious. The ballistics evidence was flawed. The original expert had made claims that didn't hold up under scrutiny. But for 15 years, no one had seriously challenged those claims. Stevenson hired independent ballistics experts, highly qualified. One was the former chief of the FBI's firearms unit, the most respected expert in the nation. These 3 independent experts examined the gun, examined the bullets, examined everything. Their conclusion was definitive. The bullets could not have been fired from Anthony's mother's revolver. In fact, the bullets couldn't have come from a single gun at all. The prosecution's entire theory was wrong. This was proof of innocence, clear, undeniable. But prosecutors didn't immediately release him.
Years passed, more appeals, more legal battles. Then someone offered Anthony a deal: plead guilty to a lesser sentence, life without parole instead of death, a way out. Anthony refused. He explained, "My mother told me if I was man enough to throw a rock, I should be man enough to say I threw it. I said this is one rock I didn't throw." He refused to confess to a crime he didn't commit, even to escape death row, even after 25 years. He wouldn't trade his innocence for freedom. He kept fighting, kept appealing, kept insisting on truth.
On April 2nd, 2015, prosecutors finally admitted what should have been obvious 30 years earlier. There was no evidence linking Anthony Ray Hinton to these murders. The charges were dismissed. On April 3rd, 2015, Anthony Ray Hinton walked out of Jefferson County Jail in Birmingham. He was 58 years old. He had lost 3 decades of his life. Family and friends embraced him. People who believed in his innocence for 30 years finally saw justice. Not complete. No amount of money gives back 30 years, but justice nonetheless. Anthony Ray Hinton became the 152nd person exonerated from death row since 1973, the 6th from Alabama's death row, one of the longest-serving death row prisoners ever freed after proving innocence. Bryan Stevenson said, "Race, poverty, inadequate legal assistance, and prosecutorial indifference conspired to create a textbook example of injustice. I can't think of a case that more urgently dramatizes the need for reform than Anthony Ray Hinton." He was right.
Anthony didn't disappear after release. He didn't retreat quietly. He became a voice for reform. In 2018, he published his memoir, The Sun Does Shine: How I Found Life and Freedom on Death Row.
What would you do if they came for you? What would you do if you was arrested for a crime you didn't commit? What would you do if you passed a polygraph test but no one believed you? What would you do if you didn't have enough money to pay for a good lawyer? If the legal system saw you for the color of your skin, then for the facts of your case? If you had to spend your life in a cell the size of a bathroom? What would you do if you were sentenced to death? How would you survive? What would you do? Who would you become? And what would you do after 30 years you finally set free? The sun does shine.